All right now. All right now. We're going to do our opening song. So I invite you all to stand up. This is a Linda Webb Kakaba song.
Can we get the lyrics?
We need the lyrics for everybody. Good morning, North Hollywood! Good morning, North Hollywood! You got the lyrics? We're waiting for everything that I need to know about what lies before me. Everything that I need to know about what lies before me is available to me. Available to me through the mind of God within me. Everything that I need to do about what I.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So we have a blessing for you, and we would like to say to you, you may say it to our newcomers or say it to each other, and it goes like this.
We
See you, we bless you, and we welcome you.
And if this, yeah, absolutely, applaud.
Yeah.
If this place works for you, we invite you to find out more about us. We invite you to check us out online, check out the welcome table. We have a lot going on. We have classes starting this week, which is, off the hook. They're so good. And we would love to see more of you if that's something you want. Now, if this place doesn't work for you, please know that it is our deep, sincere wish that you keep searching. Everybody deserves to have a spiritual home. Everybody is worthy of having someone with whom they can walk a spiritual journey. So thank you very much for coming. Let's stand up, and we've got a song to sing, don't we?
Yes.
Woke up this morning.
David Ault is in the house today. Woo! Woke up this morning with my mind. State of freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind. State on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind. State of freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Walking and talking with my mind. Yeah. Stay on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind. Stay on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Singing and praying with my mind. Stay on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind. Stay on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Woke up this morning with my mind. Stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind. Stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Woo!
Okay, I'm going to go off the rails for a bit here. I want everybody to put your hands together. Woke up this morning with my mind.
Stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind. Stay on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Yeah.
A little bit more. It's all about me. Okay, let's take a few minutes just to walk around, say hello, offer a handshake or a hug, and we'll see you in a couple minutes.
You can let go of them now. Or you don't. Oh my gosh. Maybe it's some miraculous memory or just some weird quirk of mine, but um, I took my husband to my childhood best friend's house yesterday. So they live in Pasadena, and she and I have known each other since the early years of junior high school. She's actually in the film this afternoon if you come back to see it. And I'm saying things to her like, "You said this in sixth grade." And like verbatim, and she just looks at me like I'm an alien. And but there's been this sort of rhythm of that in my life where maybe call them like little audio snapshots or things that stick. And I'm fascinated by those because as time moves on and as they sometimes circle back, they circle back in a way with a whole different invitation to examine them. So, in other words, the first time I may have heard them, I heard them through a specific filter. And then the next time that they come around, the filters have changed. And it reminds me of Anthony DeMello, who writes a lot of books about fables. And I loved the fact that he said, you read a fable at a particular stage in your life, and it has a certain meaning. And then you will go back and you will read that fable again, and it will have an entirely different entry point into your life. And I was just sitting there thinking about all of that, going, that's not anything I planned to say. And but I was thinking about these filters because the topic today is called Everywhere You Look, You See What You're Looking For. So Ernest Holmes often teaches that the world is a mirror, and all that the world is doing is reflecting. It's just reflecting back to us in real time the inner interior of the cluster of all of our beliefs. And most of the cluster of those beliefs are not things that we randomly sit down and scribe out consciously, but they've accumulated so much over time through all of the domestication, through your life path, your culture, your religion, your upbringing, your circumstances, that they formulate all of these things. And I see them sort of as filters. So when I'm looking at the world, even though the world might be holding or be holding something pristine, it's going to come through my filter. And so my filter is going to interpret it in a certain way. And that means the phrase was, we are always right by consciousness. By the level of our consciousness, I'm always right. Because what I'm interpreting through my set of filters is that the world is this. But all that the world is doing is reflecting back to me a match, a perfect image of my inner interior. And so I was sitting here thinking, gosh, every time I drag my husband here to LA and I go, and then this is where this happened, and then this is where this happened. And last night we found ourselves in Burbank, and I go, and this is where I filmed Generations, the soap opera, and there was my gate entrance, and and he's like, okay. And he still loves me. But I remember something that Marianne Williamson said in the early days when we used to sing for her, sing for Louise Hay, and all of these people. I used to call them the perpetual women of gauze. So back in the 80s, you remember the shoulder pads? They had the shoulder pads and the big gauzy outfits. And between us guys in Alliance, we used to call them the perpetual women of gauze. And so in that era, when we sang so much, like 3-4 times a week, we were singing for somebody. And Marianne said something that stuck. And she said, the moment that you step foot on the spiritual path, the moment. So in other words, the moment that there's a crack, like you hear something or you read something, or you're in an environment where something new that you've never been exposed to before happens, the moment that you step foot on the spiritual path, she said, you give up the right to be numb. You can see why that one's stuck, right? And over time, when I have circled back to that, meaning the moment that the curtain is pulled back and you see behind all of the functionality of the filter, the teachings that tell us that the world is just reflecting my inner interior. It's not about that out there, it's about what's going on in here. The moment that you peek behind the curtain and you hear that, she was intimating that we give up the right to not know that. Because now that you know, there's a whole different level of responsibility in regards to that particular information. So a lot of times what we do is we shelve it, ooh, I don't like that, and we revert back to the form of our filters, or we can sit there and it keeps circling back. And it keeps circling back, and it keeps circling back. And so what I always took that to mean is that the moment that I have willingly put myself in an environment where something new is challenging an old stagnant cluster of filters or beliefs is the moment that I cannot give carte blanche to those beliefs anymore, that I have to make a new decision point. I have to go down to a sort of deeper level into my responsibility and my relationship to the world. And that's really beautiful when the relationship is really nice. And it's not so fun when it isn't. And so in the rhythm of that, I begin to see that the moment that I step foot on the spiritual path, I relinquish an allegiance to the filters known and not known. Let me say that again. The moment that you come through a door like this, the moment that you hear a podcast, the moment that you take a class, the moment that you find yourself engaged in a conclave of people who are, studying and searching and seeking, the moment that you get into that atmosphere, we give up the right, or we relinquish full allegiance to the filter as being the ruler. And we look at the fact that the steering wheel of participation is now being put back into our hands. And we will go and we will drive as far as we want to in this particular life. This particular life, whew, I think about the Buddha and I think about so many of his disciples. And this is actually documented in the ancient traditional Buddhist text where they asked him, how many times do I have to come back and do this? You ever found yourself in that? Ooh, being human's hard. How many times do I have to come back and do this? And his answer was, and this is now put into a metric that you and I can understand. He said, I want you to imagine a mountain 6 miles high, 6 miles wide, and 6 miles long. And you and I will keep doing this, imagining that every 100 years there's a dove with a silk scarf in its beak that flies over the top of the mountain and gently strokes the rock with that silk scarf. We will keep doing that until the rock wears away. Don't you love that one, right? And I go, oh my God. Like sometimes we're in India and we're at Benares, which is called Varanasi now, which is the oldest established city in civilization. And it's where the Hindus want to go to die. Because the belief is if they can die in Varanasi, if they can be cremated on the banks of the Ganga and their ashes released into the Ganga, the holy mother water, then they don't have to come back and do this. You would not believe how many dead people there are in the alleyways in Varanasi. How many Hindu families have saved their entire life savings in order to go here because, like you and I, they don't want to necessarily do this anymore. And I go, okay, well, that's not going to work. So the moment I step foot on the spiritual path, I relinquish my allegiance to the unconscious filters of separation and audio feedback. I relinquish. Am I still on? Can you hear me? Oh. I'm so electrifying that I just short-circuited everything. Can I go over here? Hello? Hello? Am I on? Is this thing working? So, the moment that I step foot up, so do you remember your moment? I call that moment the moment that you heard something different than how you were raised. So that moment for me was actually with Louise Hay here in West Hollywood on a random Wednesday night because my friend Jerry had drugged me there because he was running sound for her, and he said, you can sit behind the speaker, you don't have to participate. And I thought he was bringing me to church, but Louise did her thing. It was really simple, but she just told me that I was enough. Radical. She didn't say that I had to do all of, this crawling on my knees and to beg for forgiveness, that who I was in this moment was enough. And as simple as that sounds probably to most of you today, that was radical in that time. And that was the moment that I first heard anything different. That was the moment you could say that I stepped foot on the spiritual path. And when I began to witness and reflect back on the immensity of that journey, I can see now that everywhere I looked, I was seeing the things that were reflecting my interior world. Sometimes I labeled those things good. Sometimes I screamed and yelled and raised my fist because it was unfair. Or I was trapped in the poison of comparison by looking at other spiritual people who were doing it and thinking that they had something on me that I didn't have. But really, all that was the filters. So let me explain. So we all come into this incarnated, I call it channel 1. This is channel 1. Now you got to think, this is like infinite cable, right? This is not Comcast or any of those kinds of, this is like infinite cable with so many channels that you and I could not count. And all of us are operating on every single channel simultaneously. Right now, we are just saturated and convinced that channel 1 is the only thing that's happening. Channel 1 is, my name is David, I'm the 5th child, poor, raised in Texas, in a fundamentalist Christian Assemblies of God background. All the things, all the trauma, all the violence, all the things that motivated me to get out of there as soon as possible, all the searching, all the accolades, all the degrees, all the things that I thought meant that I could finally be somebody, all of those things are identities and labels that exist within channel 1. Now, when Buddhist students came to him and said, how many times do I have to do that? It was like, can you imagine how many times we've channel 1 over and over again? Like we go through, I think this whole life is about David, David's redemption arc, David's needing to do this into the world in order to find some peace, only to realize that when I shed this costume, it was like I was in channel 1 the whole time. Dare I? We come into teachings like this, and the channel 1 part of us loves it because the channel 1 part of us is hurting. The channel 1 part of David that heard Louise last night was this child and now a young man's flesh and blood that still did not realize or hadn't comprehended or processed everything that had happened to him. So there's a survivalistic activity going on. There is, again, a societal pressure that says when you're in channel one, you have to be somebody, but not just somebody, somebody who. And so true confession is that this work that I now do, Kaleidoscope Child Foundation, was born out of my channel one need. I did not know that at the time. I saw something, I had for lack of a better phrase, a mystical experience where I saw oneness and everything shattered. But I returned to that point to do this work overseas with global education, still reverting back to my channel one, which meant that everything that I was doing was woven into a striving to still feel like I was worthy of being here. That was a sobering realization. All of the things, and this does not mean then that everything that you and I do, the lives, the careers, the families, everything that we create in Channel 1 isn't good. It's actually supposed to be that way. But here's the point. The moment that you step foot on the spiritual path, you understand that at some point you will get back to the back of the cave of seeking. And then what? And then you realize there are more channels. And now you start to see that this teaching that I absorbed from my channel one identity, ooh, I liked this teaching. Ooh, I think I'll go to ministerial school. Ooh, I think I will teach this teaching, all from channel one. Let's manifest. And that is necessary until you start to see that everything that is being done is to placate the me. Which
once again, Heather Grace Powers.
Thank you, David. That was exactly what my heart needed. I'm sure I'm not alone. Thank you for that incredible reminder. So I think we're going to wrap up. Well, I don't think we're closing quite yet, but I want to invite you guys into singing this blessing for the world. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Do you guys know this? No? Yeah, I figured. Loka samasta
Samasta
sukino
Sukino
bhavantu.
Bhavantu.
And that just means may all beings be free. May all beings be blessed, and may the words, my thoughts, my words, and my actions be a contributor to the blessings of all people. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May my words and thoughts and feelings be the blessing this world longs to see. Let's sing that. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May my words and thoughts and feelings be the blessing this world longs to see. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May my words and thoughts and feelings be the blessing this world longs to see. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka, loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu.
Heather Grace Powers.
am at home with the heart of God.
My life is anchored in
My life is anchored in
truth.
truth.
I can never be separate.
I can never be separate.
I live in the consciousness of peace.
I release all fear. I am living love.
All right, have a great week. Thank you.
Woo! Be back here at 2.